Hello, everyone. Welcome to our TNT Weekly. Today, we're going to talk about and special focus on language to be extinguished in mainland China. Every student in China who are aged in grade 7 will learn a story in their Chinese class. That is La Dernière class, meaning the last class written by the French writer Daudet. And the teacher will convince students that the mother tongue is one of the most important parts of someone's identity. It does make sense, right? Because language are the tool of daily communication and the records of culture. However, just like what CCP always do, they claim to be a saint, yet they do as demon. Last week, Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region of China has drawn the world's attention because a new education policy, which caused a protest organized by thousands of ethnic Mongolians. The new policy calls for Mandarin to gradually replace Mongolians as a language of education in 3 major subjects, including politics, Chinese, and history, in elementary school and middle school in the Inner Mongolian region of China. So before we move on to today's discussion on language today, let's sort out the timeline of this event first. So as we can see, that in June, inspectors from the Education Department of China revealed that there would be a new policy on the language using at schools. However, this announcement is sort of in a verbal version because they know it was sensitive and it's not going to have a good effect if it's go on publicly or on documents. And then in July, a professor, after hearing about this new policy, published an article on the local magazines discussing the new policy, and the article was later on banned on social media in China, of course. And then on August 23rd, Banyu, the only social media in Mongolia, shut down. And then that's just basically the formal preparation before they push the policy into the public, because that's going to be there would be no social media talking about this. And then on August 26th, the local education bureau published the policy eventually, which later on caused the protest by the parents and students on August 28th. They protested against the policy and got suppressed by riot police. Later on, civil servants came to people's homes to warn them not to participate in any form of demonstration. And then finally, when it comes to the first day of the new semester on September the 1st, soldiers showed up in the classrooms in case there would be some rebellions or there's going to be some demonstrations. So on September the 2nd, more than 300 workers in the local television station applied their fingerprints to petitions against this new policy. And then on September the 3rd, the local police issued an announcement warning people not to spread rumors or protest in any form. On the same day, spokeswoman Hua Chunying said, learning the official languages were an obligation, and no one had the right to escape that. So that's basically the timeline of this whole event, and that's how it's going on, and within the few weeks or even months. So basically, well, for me, it's not a surprise at all that looking at CCP suppressing languages or suppressing the people's way of talking. So now today, let me introduce several guests that we have on this topic, and then we will go through the details. So we have our guest, Mandarin, Brother Rain, and Stacy Tan joining us together to discuss this topic. So you guys can say hello to our audience first.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So, well, that brings me the first question. I believe that you guys have been focusing on this because we have been doing the news in TNT daily almost every single day, and focus on the topic. So my first question is, why do you think that the CCP is doing this? Because for me, I believe that CCP got a lot of masses to deal with or problems on their hands, like no matter it's the international relationship or it's the domestic crisis like the flood or the food crisis, food shortage. So why on earth do they start this new riots or this new chaos that they made for themselves? Why are they doing this? Why do they have this new policy at this moment? Do you guys have any thoughts? Like Brother Ring, you can go first.
Well, hello. Well, I think the thing is this, because the CCP, they always want to impose ideological conformity, and especially at this moment, because they were faced with attacks, I would say both domestic attacks and also, I would say, the international, I would say, criticism as well. And that's why, I mean, at this time, because people, and another factor is that more and more people, they are awakened by the whistleblowers movement. They know the I would say the true color of the CCP. I mean, and that's why they want to impose, once again, just to impose ideological conformity. And we can see, and their actions are also very brutal, as we can see, right? They try to once again to, I would say, and impose the Mandarin as the teaching language for all the and the schools in Mongolia, and all these kind of steps. They are shutting down, the uh, the web discussion rooms, and they're also even putting more and more severe surveillance on the minorities, and on these people, as we can see, because they're afraid of that. We can see, they do. I can see they're so afraid of the people, right?
Yeah, of course. That's why they're doing everything they're implementing. And also people died because of this event, and there were several cases of death, suspicious death, right after the protest and everything. Okay, so Mandarin, what do you think? What do you think? Why the reason they kind of published this policy at this point?
Hi. I think the answer is relatively simple. So we all know that in the past few years, especially after Xi Jinping came into power, China is becoming more and more dictatorial. And as a country become more dictatorial, it is inevitable that people at the very top of the government, they want to control everything. That is why that is basically the definition of dictatorship. A dictator wants to control everything. They will, and the ultimate goal of a dictatorship is to control thoughts. So when you look at history, you look at basically Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. These two countries, and right now what is happening in China has many similarities. For example, in Nazi Germany, you only speak one language, German. If you don't speak German, you pretty much, if you refuse to speak German, or you oppose the social structure or ideology by the Nazi government, well, you go to the concentration camp. In Imperial Japan, you only speak Japanese. If you don't have Japanese culture, or you oppose the God Emperor, you get executed. So basically, when basically controlling thoughts and controlling language is pretty much the ultimate form of a dictatorship. But it is also very interesting that when dictatorship arrive at this height, the control of thought and the control of language, they usually fall apart really soon, because we can see from the height of Nazi Germany in 1942, when Hitler was basically conquering everybody in Europe, to the end of World War II, which is June 1945. From the height of Nazi Germany to the end of Nazi Germany is only 3 years. So that is also telling me that the CCP is definitely on its last leg. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, of course. And so, well, actually, in my opinion, Mongolian, this kind of language is not the only one is going to be extinguished. Well, if we talk about Mandarin, that the CCP is saying that is allowed to use, or they push everyone to learn it, is actually being remodified or have been ruined by the CCP as well. So do you guys agree with my opinion? Like, I even believe that the Mandarin that people are speaking right now has been somehow remodified, or has been ruined by the CCP's policy ever since the foundation of the new China, made by Mao Zedong. Mandarin, what do you think on this?
Well, I agree and disagree. So basically, the language we speak right now, which is called the Mandarin, in Chinese it's called 普通话. If you do a direct translation, it's actually translate into common language. So it's basically a language speak by the common people. The way that the language is spoken is pretty has pretty much been kind of like this way since the late Qing dynasty, because we can see in a lot of the literature that was written by Lu Xun, one of the most famous author. One of the author, critics, and writer in Chinese, in modern Chinese history. The way he wrote his articles and essays is already very, very similar to the grammar that we use today. However, the way that the characters are written have definitely been changed a lot after the Chinese communists took over, and that is how in our day Chinese have two different written language.
Yes,
you have the Chinese simplified, and you have the Chinese traditional. And this is very interesting because China is the only country, I would say the only region or the only culture that has two different written languages. Like if you look at the United States, you look at Canada, you look at Australia, you look at Great Britain, there's only the British English. There's they might be spelled the British English there's some vocabularies that are spelled differently from the Americans, but if you're within if you live inside the United Kingdom, you don't write your things in a different way. So and however, I mean, to go back to your point, to change the characters of your written languages, this is also a way to manipulate your thoughts to change you. And also, I mean, when Mao Zedong took over power, he wants to be different. He wants to be this, new generation, a new generation of Chinese leaders, creators. He wants to be this new world's creator. So he has to create something different to show that he's different from the previous generation of leaders, which is Chiang Kai-shek, Sun Yat-sen, and others. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. And so basically, well, for Han people, their language has been ruined by the CCP, at least with the written version. Well, just let's put CCP aside for a little, and let's talk about the language itself. All right. So because if we can't talk some sense about why should we protect the minority languages, then people wouldn't even care. Like what's wrong with it? So that's the next question we're going to talk about. So my question is, should we protect the language that are held by minorities? Because, this is not the first time that we see a language disappearing somehow, or as time goes by, as the history processing, then there are languages that are disappearing every single day. If you check the research, you will get the number, like how fast it is to make a language disappear completely on this planet. So why would we care that much about whether the Mongolians or the Tibetan would still have their languages? So should we protect the language held by the minority? So that's my next question. So Stacy, Tan, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes. So as I know that the termination of minority language is not a shiny new occasion anymore. However, the more difficult issue is that the culture is unavoidably disappearing along with the disappearance of the language itself. So that is gigantic encounters, history, and perspectives on the universe of people who have been drenched profoundly into a language since the start of the world. Consequently, it is an awkward situation to see a language similarly as a specialized strategy. A language isn't just an approach to an impart among individuals, yet is in addition to a culture itself. Therefore, minority dialects ought to be ensured because they're social qualities. According to David Harrison, linguistic professor of Swarthmore College, he says that have been shaped by people to serve as repositories for cultural knowledge efficiently packed and readily transmittable across generations. In other words, it is the significance for human race to keep the preservation of minority language because of social qualities, scholastic, ethnic, and social qualities. So furthermore, another point is that learning a second language has been proven to be beneficial to general comprehension and attention span. By learning a second language or an endangered language, or languages spoken by minority groups, people could also spread and promote cultures which are at risk of dying out. So recently, as Sierra Harris said, that Mongols in China have been protesting against the government's curtail of teaching Mongolian in schools, including shifting to using national Chinese language textbooks instead of locally developed Mongolian versions. So, according to statistics, around 300,000 ethnic Mongol students went on strike against the policy imposed by Beijing starting on, August 31st. And it has been continuously going on for a few days. And this definitely is enough to show the attitudes of the people. The people, they want to preserve their language, their culture, and want to hold their way of previous education. What the CCP is doing is suppressing freedom and attempting to take away take control on Mongolians. And so in conclusion, the conclusion I end up is that it is necessary for minority language to be protected, and that it is especially unfair for the government to take away these rights and exploit the minorities.
Great, you've made a great
that's
point.
all I have for now.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so, Mandarin, what do you think? Could you just wrap up your answer with a shortened answer? Like, should we protect the language held by the minorities?
I think, well, my personal opinion is that we shouldn't just focus on languages, because minority language in itself is basically a part of diversity. So the bigger question is, should a country or a nation, maintain diversity? And the answer is absolutely yes. We can. There's no doubt when we look at countries across the world, a country that embraces diversity is definitely really high up on the development list. We look at the United States, Canada, Great Britain, Australia. All of these advanced countries, they all embrace diversity. And the strength of diversity is that different people from different cultural background, aka including languages, they have they think differently, and that is why that is why they are able to look at things from a different perspectives. So and ultimately that contributes to creativity and innovation. So if China really wants to, if the Chinese Communist Party really wants to overtake the United States, China should embrace diversity, and that should start with embracing different languages. And that is my statement. Thank you.
But well, in that case, if you are right, but personally, I believe you're right, then I guess it's totally the opposite of dictatorship, right? Because if we talk about dictatorship, it means unity. It means that there should be only one voice. Then if you talk about minority, or if we talk about diversity of cultures and everything, then I guess they just don't fit, right? So if American people could see that, and then they will reveal the mask of the true CCP. All right, so let's just move on to next question. So I guess we believe that it's important, or it's necessary to protect the languages, to preserve the diversity, or anything related to issue. Then what should we do? How can we protect the languages that are spoken by only few group of people? So Stacy Yan, I know that I have known that you did a lot of research on this topic. So could you share any thoughts about your results? Like, what should we do to protect the language?
Yeah, of course, it's my pleasure. So the most important part in minority language protection and promotion is institutional support. So institutional support generally makes the difference between success and failure in maintaining a minority group language. Education, law, and administration, religion, and the media are crucial domains from this point of view. The minority group, which can mobilize these institutions to support language maintenance, has some chance of succeeding. When the government of a country is committed to maintaining or reviving a language, it is possible to legislate for its uses in all of these domains. So some examples of this kind of support are, first, the use of minority language in education, for example, bilingual education programs using or teaching the minority language in school. Second, support by law and administration, for example, the right to use the language in the court, House of Assembly, and in dealing with government officials. And third, the use of languages in places of worship and the media, for example, TV programs, radio programs, newspapers, and magazines, or even religious books and stuff like that. So the Chinese government, in contrast, is cutting down one of these most important ones, the education. They don't want their future Mongolian generation to speak the language. And so, in my point of view, it is inhumane and it's against the will of ethnic Mongols. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And so that makes me, or make us our discussion move on to the last question for today's show. So if we take a look at this news, like the new policy and the whole chaos after it, there's one role that is quite essential but missing, because we see that the workers from the television station are applying their fingerprints to fight against this new policy. But actually this is about teaching, right? And then there's one part has been missing. So I just want to ask you guys, could you figure it out which part is missing, the key chain or key element on this education chain that has been missing? Their voice has been either suppressed or they don't even want to make their voice. So I just wanted to guys guess what I'm talking about here. Which role do you think is missing in this news or in this event?
Probably the person that teaches or like transmits this information in.
Yeah, right. So personally, I was trying to say is that the most important role that has been missing in this whole event is the teachers. So if we take a look at the footage or the videos when the students were trying to break the barriers and they tried to escape from the school eventually, and we can see that no teacher has been standing out, or well, as far as I have been researched or concerned, that teachers have been missing in this whole event, right? We didn't see any teachers stand up to be against it, or we didn't see that the teachers are trying to make a point. Although with the suppression of CCP, they probably it's hard for them to speak for themselves. But and also, of course, I have heard that a couple have died because of this policy, because of some suspicious reasons. Then one of them is the teacher. So my question is, if you were the teacher there in Mongolia, and what would you do, or which stand would you take on this point, as it has been processing to this point? Then if you were the teacher there, what would you do? Black Mandarin, could you go first? If you were the teacher there, what would you do? What you would be doing right now?
That is a great question. I mean, personally, I probably just run away. Because
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because when because there's a really simple reason why most of the teachers they didn't stand with the students, is because the teachers, they had too much to lose. They have a job. They have a job which gives them income. And a lot of the teachers, they probably have families. You know, and all of them and a lot of them, you know, probably have kids. So if you stand with the students and you go protest with them, well, you can get fired immediately. And where'd you get your money? How are you going to feed your kids? And now you have you have done you have pretty much done the really the number one thing that CCP hates, with join a protest against a party. So that means like your career is over, because all of the schools is operated by government in China. So if you lose your job, you couldn't get another one. So I think that a lot of the teacher I honestly believe that a lot of the teachers, they probably agree with the students from the bottom of their hearts, but because they have too much to lose, so that's why they stay silent. So that's why my answer is like, well, I probably won't run away or just stay silent. If I see the students, rushing to the gate, I would just stand aside and let them rush to the gate. I just don't do anything. Yeah, because
at least you won't stop them, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you are a teacher, and if you don't want to lose your job and anger the CCP, but at the same time you also support the student, stand aside. Stand aside and don't do anything. So yes, and so if you do that, well, I mean, there's really not much the government can do about you. I mean, they can't say that you cannot stand over there and do nothing. I mean, that is So that's my answer.
Probably next day after you say this, CCP would change their policy, like you must stop your students, otherwise you will be sent to prison.
That's possible.
Yeah, right. So, Stacy Tan, what do you think? If you were
I do agree.
How would you react?
Yes.
Yep.
I do agree with what Mandarin said because there's so many suppressions of from the CCP. But I did hear that the Chinese Communist Party is forcing their teachers to ask their students to come back and stop the protesting and just obey the government and obey the Chinese Communist Party. Just be a puppet of them. The teachers may not think that way, but they're forced to do that. There's so many things to there's too many forces and pressure under them. I mean, above them. They're under pressure. Yeah.
So basically, we can understand their choice, no matter what it is. But just like what Mandarin has mentioned, well, if you disagree with this policy, yet you want to keep your job, then the least thing you can do for now is like don't do anything, don't stop the students. Well, try to find a way to protect them, or just don't say anything that on the collision of the CCP side and try to be against the students and things. And we heard that the policemen in some part of the Inner Mongolia was refusing to take actions on the protesters because they were Mongolians too. So, at the end of today's show, I just want you guys to focus on the policy that the CCP has made for the autonomous ethnic groups. That the system of original autonomous for ethnic groups stipulates that ethnic autonomy regions has the power to first administer internal affairs on their own initiative. Second, independently develop and employ the spoken and written languages of the ethnic groups. That's a written law. That's what the policy that the CCP is saying that they're following, but they're doing the opposite. And also the third one is the freedom of religious belief, which is a total lie because you can see that the churches has been shut down and everything, the beliefs that they're holding. And we can even see a flag of the party at the top of the temple in Tibet. And then the fourth is independently arrange, manage, and develop the economy of ethnic minority groups. And the last one is independently develop social undertakings such as education, science, and technology and culture of the ethnic groups. So basically, there are 5 rules here, and they're kind of against or they're betraying or they're doing against at least 3 of them. So at the end of the show, I just want to say that go Mongolians, and you have our full support. And just whatever it is, you have to keep safe because just like Mandarin said, if CCP is trying to do this and just show more symptoms of the dictatorship, then or just like what Nazi did at the later years, then the end of the CCP is not far away from us, and you just need to protect them yourselves. So once again, thank you Mandarin and Stacy Tian and also Brother Ring for joining our TNT Weekly, and we're going to focus on the huge events for next week on next Saturday. So thank you. This is all for today, and goodbye.
Goodbye.